1. Join Sumaya Khan every Tuesdays between 7 and 8 p.m. for an educational evening exclusive to Radio Al-Ansar. Your education is a dress rehearsal for a life that is yours to lead. School Matters with Sumaya Khan. Tell the whole world could.
Masisondele, Pila no kolo, yelele. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to School Matters with me, Sumaya Khan. Yes, your producer and presenter of School Matters. Alhamdulillah, we are back at school. It's the fourth term, the last term. Well, time's just going to fly by. It's a very short term. Our grade 12 learners are gearing up for their final exams. Who can believe it? There's I think about less than 20 days. Well, this evening's topic is a topic which you, the listener, have requested many times via emails, telephonic calls. When and why are you not doing this show? Well, I've asked Department of Education to represent themselves, but were unavailable, the spokesperson for education for the province, hopefully in the future. But nevertheless, our guests this evening have written articles concerning this ongoing issue. South Africa has one of the worst performing education systems in the world, plagued by incompetence and corruption. The Center of Development, that's CDE, and Enterprise released several reports on South Africa's education system, outlining its failings, the factors responsible, and recommendations for the actions that need to be taken to improve education in our country. While the president speaks of a silent revolution, while the minister talks of a system on the rise, the truth is that we face a silent crisis in our schools, especially the government schools in our province or in the country. South Africa has one of the worst performing education systems in the world, according to CDEs. Well, corruption adds to the pile of obstacles in the education system's way. A report by National Education Evaluation and Development Unit, that's NEDU, released in 2015, assessing rural literacy, found extensive union involvement in corruption, teacher hiring, and promotion processes. Well, this was known as the job for cash scandals, where it would be coordinated to get favored individuals onto the school governing body, that's SGB, to ensure those who paid for positions could land them that job. Well, in 2016, the MEC, Minister of Education, appointed a ministry task team, MTT, to investigate the issue, which found that in 6 or possibly more of all of the 9 provinces, DOE and unions were in charge of management, administration, and priorities of education in the country, not the Department of Education entirely. Despite findings of criminality by the MTT, no government officials implicated in the 2014 and 2015 job for cash scandals has been prosecuted or suspended. This is from the Daily Business. She added that not one of the key MTT recommendations to fight corruption and push back state capture has been implemented to this day. Well, state capture is not only in municipality and other spheres of the country of governance. It's also in our education. She added that not one of them have been suspended, corrupt, or implemented ways forward. Well, the CDE recommendations then was to focus on 5 areas for action to improve education outcomes? Well, I just mentioned the 5. Tackle corruption and state capture in education, raise accountability, improve teacher performance, install fresh leadership in public education, set realistic national and provincial goals, performance. Well, our guest in studio, I don't think he needs much of me to introduce him. He's somebody who just says it the way it is, and he is Mr. V.Gani, the chairperson for the province of South African governing bodies.
Well, actually, the chairperson of the Parents Association of KZN. So it's a provincial body, of course, affiliated to the national body as well. So
well,
that's
what? We will be breaking for Salah and we will continue.
This azan is sponsored for the Isale Sawab of Marhum Muhammad Farooq Latib and all Marhumin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest abode in Jannah. Ameen.
أعزائي المستمعين، حان الآن موعد أذان العشاء لمدينة دربن وما حولها.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
These surahs after Azan are brought to you by Amina's Wonder Spice and Wonder Dates, 9 Peters Road, Springfield, Durban.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس.
This salah is proudly brought to you by Khan's Chemical Industry. May this salah enlighten your soul and bring about endless blessings throughout your day. This salah was proudly brought to you by Khan's Chemical Industry. May this salah enlighten your soul and bring about endless blessings throughout your day.
Having a clean, comfortable home is every homeowner's pride. That's why Khan's Chemicals have developed and manufactured prime yet affordable quality household brands. Starlight, Miracle Mum, Exterminate, and Angie to care for your home and family. With a wide range of fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, bleachers, and all-purpose cleaners, pine gels, bubble baths, and much more, Khan's Chemicals ensures your home remains our #1 priority. For sales and other inquiries, call 011 933 4021. Khan's Chemicals, cleaning your home the way you want.
We'd love to meet you. Pay us a visit. Radio Al-Ansar.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to School Matters. Yes, with me, Sumaya Khan. Today we have a hot topic, a topic which you wanted, the listener. You have emailed me, you have called me. Well, I have the person who knows everything that's happening, who will educate you, the listener, the educator. I have requested and invited Department of Education, but they were unavailable this evening. Well, again, for those of you who just tuned in, it's 90.4 FM in Durban, 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg. Our guest in studio is Mr. V.Gani. Well, everybody now is sitting down and listening to the governing body person. Well, those of you who would like to WhatsApp, it's 060 904 1056. That's 060 904 1056. Well, we are talking about corruption in education. How bad is it?
So you started the program off, Sumaya. Firstly, assalamu alaikum to your listeners and a very good evening to everyone else that's listening in. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to come and conscientize people. Look, you gave a short preamble about the state of education, and what in essence is, and the thing that you didn't say is that there've been budget cuts in education in 7 of the 9 provinces.
Yes, but the new
KZN is one of those provinces that have been affected. So in essence, what it means is that you're going to have schools that are not going to be able to function and give off quality education. And the reason for that is because schools got failing infrastructure, they've got personnel problems, staffing issues, and that's not going to be made any better because the department's budget has been cut. So we're not going to get the quality that we want in schools. That's just, and to be honest, anybody who tells you any different is speaking an absolute lie. All right, you know this. You're an educator. The moment you cut money in a school, you're cutting quality. Exactly. End of story. So there's no excuse for that, but that is happening. But coming back, obviously, with I think my article went out. There was an article that I wrote recently, and it's gone viral in terms of the corruption. And look, I've had this conversation with lots of people. I can't control the corruption, and I certainly can't cure it. I must be honest, all right? And there's a very simple reason for that. It's because I'm not at the forefront of these processes. Yeah. So I'm not involved in processes. People who are sitting on governing bodies, so there are parents, and there are probably a number of parents that are listening tonight that are sitting on schools in your capacity as a member of the governing body. Yeah. And if you don't know this, then I'm going to tell you that the promotion post document is now out. You know this already. the HRM is out. It's been already given, and there's a cut-off date. When I say the HRM circular and promotion post document is out, what I mean by that is that all the jobs for HODs, because when you get into school, you're a level 1 educator, and then you go on to an HOD, which is a head of department. Then you go on to deputy principal. Then you go on to principal. Sometimes from the HOD you can go straight on to principal if your school certainly doesn't have a deputy principal. Some people ask the question as to, but how come some schools don't have a deputy principal? Well, it's very simple. You need to have a certain amount of learners in your school to qualify for a deputy principal. If you've got less than that, you don't qualify for it. So what has happened in essence is that this promotion post document is out. People are now applying. Educators are applying. I want to say people. I'd say educators are applying. And they're going to be applying. Certain educators will apply for HODs. HODs will apply for principals and deputy principals. And deputy principals will apply for principal positions. So those things are happening. The process is under the control of the governing body, the process. So in essence, what happens is members of the governing body are chosen to sit on the IC, or what is called the interview committee. And when you sit in the interview committee, your job in the interview committee, that's your job. Your mandate is to assess each and every application to make sure that they fulfill the requirements of the job. Then to score them or assess them based on that application. And from there, you'll come to your top 5 applicants or so. All right. And then those 5 applicants in terms of scores, which is after you assess them, these are the 5 best performing in terms of what you feel. And then you take them through to an interview. In the interview, everybody starts off on the same page. So there's nobody more than somebody else. Everybody starts off at 0. And at the interview, you then assess them based on the processes at the interview. You assess them, their suitability, their credibility, their qualification. You do all of that, and then from there you then make a recommendation, and your recommendation will be, again, in terms of scores. You'll get candidate who scored the highest, then the second highest, third highest, fourth highest, fifth highest, and so on. And then what you would normally do is you would then bring those results through to your governing body, right? Because remember, members of the interview committee are members of your governing body anyway. So those members would then bring to the entire governing body. And not that your SCM is sitting there and all of that, because they shouldn't be sitting there. Your union rep shouldn't be sitting there. That's called a ratification meeting. And what happens at this particular meeting is the governing body would then say, look, we went through the process of, let's say you're looking at a deputy principal in the school. So they would then say, look, we went through the process. We received 30 applications. We went through them, of which we've got 5 top applicants. We then interviewed the 5 top applicants, and this is the scoring. And then they will pass it on. They will fill in the required documentation. They will submit that to the Department of Education. And then, lo and behold, after some time, the appointment is made. Simple process, right? But it is simple. It's very simple.
Now, flip the coin over.
People make it complicated. So what happens is, we find when members of the governing body are sitting and they're doing this process, they are intimidated, they are coerced, they are threatened, they are bribed, all of these things, which what I'm saying to you falls all in the big ambit of corruption, because that's exactly what they do. So what happens is these people then start to, like, I'm not giving examples, right? So the principal would already know who's the candidate he wants for the deputy principal. He'll know. He wants this particular candidate. Because he doesn't want to work with anybody else, or perhaps he doesn't know the other candidates for whatever reason. So he will try and goad that governing body into making and scoring this candidate higher, because he wants this candidate to be in that post. There are circumstances and there are allegations and reports of department officials also coming into the process, and then when they're sitting in the process as resource people, they then goading, coercing, sometimes intimidating and threatening those people on the interview committee to say, no. Look, I mean, one governing body said to me that they were going through the interview process. So they interviewed the first person, second person. The third person came in there, but they already got wind that this is the candidate that they want. Not they, the candidate that is earmarked for that position. And so the SCM is sitting there, and she turns to them and she says, there's the candidate sitting right in front of you. What else do you want? What else do you need? You don't need to look any further. There's the candidate. Now, imagine candidate 1 and 2 are oblivious of this. Candidate 4 and 5 still have to come in. What are their chances? They've got zero chances.
Your time.
Why? Because you've already identified, and the department official is pushing you in that direction. Sometimes they even go to the extent of saying to the people, no, you've scored that person too low. You need to score them higher.
Or score them lower.
Or score them, or you know what, you've scored that. So if sometimes it's not their candidate or chosen candidate, it's like, no, you need to readjust the score of that person because you scored them too high. And then what happens? You score them lower because you are intimidated. And then there were some instances where people, SCMs have threatened to say, look, if you're not going to do what I'm telling you to do, okay, because I'm here to guide you.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, they're not guiding you. They're interfering, right?
Yeah.
They're intimidating. They are interfering. They are actually engaging fraudulently, right? But they then tell them, look, you are not doing this. I'm going to stop this process. And if I stop the process, the department's going to take it over. So you guys are not going to do it anyway. So these are all tactics that department officials and people use to get a candidate forward. Now, as I said earlier, and I started off by saying, I cannot stop corruption. I can't do that.
You can make conscientize.
That's what we're doing. So ultimately, I cannot stop corruption. I can't do that. But we can conscientize those people that are sitting in these promotion posts, because we are able to tell them, listen, guys, if you feel at any point in time, and you'll feel it, you'll know it.
Yeah.
If you feel at any point in time that you are being bullied, that you are being coerced, that you are being intimidated, that you are being pushed into making and going into a particular direction, you stop it right there, we report it, and we get those people removed.
Do you know you are 20 years or more?
28 years.
28 years. So you had members of the governing body come to you afraid to speak up because of victimization, afraid of the principal because their child is there, afraid to, as they say, ruffle feathers or even do the right thing.
Right.
So how do you deal with that?
And I say to people, look, at the end of the day, and there's a saying, I don't know who said it, but the saying is there, evil prevails when good men do nothing.
Yeah,
that's in what it is. So if you do not stand up in the face of this corruption, if you do not confront it head on, if you do not inform people, hey, listen, this is not acceptable, we're never going to stop it.
Yeah.
So the whole idea and the whole kind of thought process behind writing that article is, look, I can't stop corruption because I'm not involved in the processes. They're happening countrywide. They're happening.
How bad would you say it's in KZN?
Very bad.
Because when I was researching, it was kind of shocking and I was also embarrassed because you are an educator in this province.
Very bad. Let me tell you, I had one governing body person call me. He said, Mr. Ghani, we're doing the process and this van rocks up to my house. This van, I don't know this person. The guy jumps off and he asked me if I'm this certain person. I won't mention the name. And I said, yes, I am. And he said, look, he opened his cubby. He said, there's 50,000 rand here in this cubby. It's cash. Take it. All I need for you to do is to get our candidate to the interview process. And this guy said to me, I told this guy, look, I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. This is not what happens here. I'm sorry. I don't play this game. And he walked away. Now, how many people would do that? How many people would walk away?
Come on, you're getting 50,000 rand just like that, Mondi.
But
would you take it? It's like you got the angel and the devil you have to choose now.
No, but you see, the whole point is that
quick money and
but then there's and today if you read this Maritzburg, there's two police officers were bribed for 1 million rand each and they turned it down.
Yeah.
1 million rand each and they turned it down. So sometimes, people have ethics more than anything else.
I think principled,
Correct.
and you know what, when you stand for the truth, no one stands with you. I experience this. You stand alone. And my thing is, I'm standing for the truth. I'm standing because I have hardcore evidence. And then you think about it, it's not about getting that position. Come on, 1,000, and it's going to make you very rich.
Yeah.
No, not really. But it's the principle, and everybody else looking at you, standing up for the right thing. You are basically, also giving them that motivation. You know what? I am not scared. I got V.Gani here. I got Sumaya here. So I can be the next person.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying to people, you know what? At the end of the day, you got to speak out for corruption, because that's the only way we stopped it. And I will tell you this. There were incidents in the past where governing bodies had come through to me in the middle of this process, in the middle of it, had come through and said, look, this is what's happening. My advice to them was stop it immediately. Put it on record that this is what's happening. This is the intimidation that's happening. This is one circuit manager was doing it. And I actually wrote up to the HR department, the provincial HR department. I called them to a meeting. I asked them to bring this guy. I told them what was happening, and I said, I want him removed from the process. They had to remove him from the process. That's a start of it. So I'm saying to people is that don't think that when you report it, nothing happened. You stop it, your governing body stops the process right there. Whether it's a union official that's intimidating you, whether it's your own principal that's intimidating you, whether it's a department official that's intimidating you, you stop it, including if it's a colleague of yours on the governing body. If there's a colleague of yours on the governing body that's also kind of pushing you and intimidating you into making and going in a particular direction, you stop it right there and we get them removed. And I'll tell you why. Only when people start being held accountable, then only we're going to stop this purge of, and we're going to purge this corruption.
Now, these are our views and opinions. You've been in this game for very long. Tell me, how afraid people are of their safety because they are standing up for the truth?
Well, excuse me. Look, I've received death threats, right? And I've always said this, and I think as a Muslim person, we believe that if you're standing up for what is right, and in the process of that you get killed, you're being martyred. And there's no greater death in Islam than to be martyred. All right. So I'm not afraid to die. I can tell you this much. And I've made that very clear. But I also said to people, don't think that if you get rid of me, that suddenly this entire investigation or this complaint or whatever it is that's happening, don't think that would just die a sudden death. No, it won't die with me. There's people behind me. There's people behind me that will take that baton and they will run and they will do what they need to do. So there are people that are there in the back, they're in the they're there, that know what's happening in education, that have their fingers on the pulse, that know what's happening. So because I'm the chairperson, I have to be that voice. I have to be that beacon. That's what I'm doing. But rest assured, there are people that would do that. So I'm not concerned for my safety. In the sense that I'm standing up for what is right. And if everybody starts to do that, then those people who are your bullies will become the minority.
Do recently, the last 4 months, I'll say, there have been so much about the corruption in education on social media. Articles written. I think you are one of them and quite a few others. There's been different individuals, educators, venting out their frustration, and they were even posting proof and evidence. So come on, Department of Education, y'all are seeing this, y'all are listening to this. Why are we not doing anything? That's questions that are coming up.
And I'm not apologetic when I say this, right? I'm not apologetic. In the Department of Education, there is no such thing as consequence management.
Yeah.
People who do wrong, and I've said this, I promise you, I have fights with department officials all the time. Because people who do wrong are either let off the hook, transferred somewhere else, either let off the hook, transferred somewhere else or even given a promotion somewhere else.
Okay.
So there is no consequence management when it comes. And that's what we're asking for. And all of us need to do that. Sumaya, if we, as a governing body, if you start pushing the department, I want that person charged, I want this, I want that. I'm going to give you one quick example, right? It was a school I was dealing with. Went through the promotion post, went through the interviews, got the candidates. Candidate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranked. Came to the governing body ratification process. Came there to the governing body ratification process, and the principal says to them, look, let's give the post to candidate number 2. Now, for those of you that don't know, you can do that, but there must be justification for that. It must be a meaningful justification. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you're an all-boys school, you need a woodwork teacher, and people have applied, and your candidate number 1 is a lady, candidate number 2 is a male. All right? Who would you rather prefer? You'd prefer the male in there. It's an all-boys school. It's a labor-intensive kind of subject, or whatever the case may be. So there are certain things that you can.
But shouldn't there be a criteria before the interview? That's when they meet during gratification.
No, you're correct. But your criteria cannot be discriminatory. You understand?
But generally, when you are doing something wrong, you will look at every avenue to justify.
So let me tell you this. So you can. They call it supersede. You can supersede a candidate, right? But here's the justification the principal said. He said, let's give this position to person number 2. Because in 2 years' time, person number 2 is going to retire. And then we'll give the post to person number 1. Now, how unfair is that to person number 1? That's one. Secondly is that your only justification is, let's promote this person because this person can then get a higher salary, which means when this person is going to exit the system in 2 years, you're going to exit on a higher package. And so you're not doing it
and
because...
they're also quite well behaved, so they'll be good in my SMT.
So yeah, you control them. So in essence, what you're doing is you're not looking at what is justifiably the correct thing to do. You are looking at advancing somebody's narrative. You are looking at advancing somebody's agenda. How unfair is that? I've asked the department to charge that principal. I've got a meeting on tomorrow with the DDG. I'm going to follow up on that case to say, has that principal been charged?
There's messages coming on. We have a message. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sumaya. Is there no whistleblower system for the Department of Education to report corruption and post-audit of process before appointment?
There is, all right, and I'll try and find it somewhere. But there is, I suppose if you just look at the department, you see they did issue some time back a number and said, you look, if there's corruption or whatever, then you call that. How effective it is, I have no idea. That I can tell you. All right. Who's manning it? In fact, is one of the things I must actually take back and say, because we need to investigate that who's sitting at the department, who's receiving these complaints, where is it going to, and what's happening? How many complaints have they received? What were the nature of those complaints? What were the investigative, results of those complaints? That information is not available.
We have another message coming through. People who are holding these positions are not qualified, and that is why schools are falling apart.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's exactly leads into corruption, because more often than not, people who are given these positions are given these positions out of loyalty to the school. This teacher's been here for 25 years or 30 years, and look, he's been very loyal or she's been very loyal, and we need to promote them. Not because that person has the skill set, very important word, or the competency. Not because of that, because the person has been here. I mean, I had one politician say that, and I was like, I promise you, I was perplexed, because it shows you they don't even know basic common, ethics of governance. You can't. I'm not saying that you mustn't, but you don't reward somebody on the sake because they've been here too long or they've been here teaching for a long time. You got to look for the best person for the job. And you got to give it to them, because that's the only way your school will grow and that community will grow.
But is it given to the best person, or it's given to the person who you can control in your management?
Well, that's exactly where the corruption is, because that's what I'm talking about, is that when these governing bodies sit and when they do that, when you give it to somebody who your principal told you to give it to, if you give it to somebody who's your friend, somebody who you know, somebody who's been on staff for a long time, not because they've earned the position, because you just feel out of loyalty.
Or you in the in clique.
Or you in that clique, of course, it happens. Favorites and all of that. Then certainly, but what people don't realize is, and for me, this is where the struggle is. There are so many talented, dedicated,
educators,
hard-working educators out there who wake up every day and are involved in education from the time they open their eyes, all right? That they apply for these positions in the hope that one day I'm going to be able to advance myself. I'm going to be able to help a school, all right? They do that. And they send through, and you must remember when you're compiling your CV, it's an effort, it's time, it's cost, it's all of those things that you have to do. So you do all of these things. But then how unfair it is if you are applying somewhere, but the body that you are applying to
is earmarked.
Is that position has already earmarked for somebody, that position has already been decided. Okay? And you applying for it. It's like going for an interview knowing full well that the job is given to somebody else. It's so unfair. Why would you want to waste your time doing that? And again, I'm saying the responsibility of ensuring fairness and transparency lies with those people who are sitting in the process, that is members of your governing body, that is your interview committee. They are responsible. They are sitting there. They have to do this right. And again, somebody called me today to say, but most of these people that sit on these processes are like people who are not very knowledgeable in the processes. And I always say, no, hang on a second. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do this, one. Secondly, the document takes you through it. Thirdly, that the department offers training and guidance in order for you to be able to
do it all the time.
We do it all the time. Fourthly, is that if you Google it, you'll find all the information you need.
So tell me, how many union members and department officials sometimes when you are walking just disappear from you? Do you know, there's another message. I read it, I think, on social media, one of the educational sites. Why are HRM bulletins coming out when 95% of those posts are already earmarked and they really have the candidate in mind? And this person was trying to get people to sign signatures, like in a WhatsApp form. So I think lots of people are being conscientized and realizing, it's quite bad, the corruption.
Yeah, look, but as I'm saying again, it stops with the people that are sitting there. There are corrupt principals. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's all, because there certainly is, and there's a lot of people who take their work very seriously, who operate with high ethical standards.
That's it. They have morals or values.
There are people that do that. But there's also a fair degree of people or principals who do exactly what I'm saying. They already know who they want. They already know who they want, and they want you to make that appointment because it's in your hands. And the same with the department officials as well. When I talk about SEMs and people from the Department of Education who sit in these processes, I'm saying it, and I dare anybody in the education department to come and challenge me on it, because I'll tell you, I'll provide evidence of where we've had people removed for exactly the same reason. So I'm saying it, and I say it unapologetically. At the end of the day, the buck stops with the people who are sitting there. And if you allow yourself, and you know what, you don't have to be too knowledgeable on the process. You just need to know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And
fear God, have a conscience.
But that's what we're saying. So the idea of the post, and I'm doing a series of talks with the majority of the radio stations. I'm doing it because we want to conscientize those people, because they're going to be sitting in the processes now. So we want to conscientize them that, hey, listen, sitting there, basically don't take nonsense from anyone.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you find at any point in time that you're being bullied, that somebody's making overt or covert kind of remarks, today one principal was telling me, she's spoke to her, and she says, she called me for something, and she says they have a post in her school, and one of the people applied, and he says, come on, ma'am, you know the people, you know. and I said, so what was your response? And she said, well, I told him that, look, the governing body is in charge of the process, and they'll do what's best for the school. I said, exactly. And I said, don't only do that, tell your governing body, look further, don't only look inside.
Yeah, true.
Look everywhere.
Do you know, good leadership is where you might not like somebody. Just say there's an educator in your school for like over 20 years, but that educator has the skills,
absolutely,
who can take the school to the next level. So if you're a bad leader, and I'm saying this on air, you will work with your emotions.
Well, I think then you can't call people like that leaders, because leaders don't work with emotions. Leaders are people who inspire other people. Leaders are people who lead other people
and create more leaders.
Leaders are people who create other leaders. Leaders are people who capacitate. In your school, the most important leader is your principal. And if your principal is a good leader, he will capacitate, empower not only the governing body, but also the staff. Okay, everyone, your educators, everyone. You'll earn the respect of everyone. You will do things that are right. And there are principals who do exactly that. But I'll tell you also, there are lots of other principals who do exactly the opposite. All right, they want to be in charge. They have to tolerate the fact that there's a governing body, but they don't want them there. So instead, what they do, they make all the decisions. They do everything without the involvement, authorization, consent, intervention of the governing body. And that causes problems, because then you're operating autonomously, you're operating on your own, and you can't be doing that. So, and for me, the important thing is about department officials as well. There are department officials that are selling posts. There are department officials, and there are allegations of department officials selling posts. Department officials, and I've got first-hand experience of department officials interfering in processes. I mean, one SCM came and said to a governing body interview committee, okay, I don't think your guys are capacitated to do this post, so you now be the secretary. And he brought another principal as his friend, and he put the principal as a scoring member into that interview committee. Now, who authorized that? Because the governing body actually picks your interview committee. They select your interview committee. Your interview committee is a subcommittee of the governing body for that period. And they are tasked to do what? You're sifting your interviews and bring the results back to them. So where does the department official come in and reconstitute this interview committee?
Tell me, what advice do you have for educators who are applying right now for the promotion post, especially in KZN? I would say all the provinces, they are so despondent. They feel they have no hope.
Well, I'll tell you this, right? I got a message from an educator who said, Mr. V.Gani, thank you so much. I've read your article. I concur with you 100% in the article. Everything that you said is factual because it happens. And she said to me, but that's why I don't apply anymore. And it saddened me that, and that comment saddened me. It saddened me because what is happening is that good people who really want to improve themselves, improve their standing in the education sector and sphere, are being so demoralized and so demotivated that they don't want to apply anymore, because they know it's a given that a particular person is already earmarked for the post and already given the post. So what's the point of applying?
There was another message which came through. I would like to apply in my school, but I know who the principals want. And if I apply and if I'm the chosen to be shortlisted, they all will hate me. So this also happens.
But it's very short-sighted, because at the end of the day is that what is the resolve of the governing body? The resolve of the governing body, the ultimate goal of the governing body, is to appoint a person who's competent, who's skilled, who has the necessary skill set, who can lead, somebody who can make a difference to that school. Now, that person can either be in your school, that person can also be outside your school. Now, when you sit there and when you as a governing body are approaching this process, do it in a very unbiased way, which means that don't have any particular candidate in mind, because then you're going into a process already with a bias.
Yeah.
You're not going to do justice to that process. Go in there and don't look at any names, don't look at any which school people come from. Look at the quality of the people in terms of what they can deliver.
There's another message. I've been for over 15 interviews. Some of the interviews never even last 3 minutes. I wasted my whole Saturday morning. Well, as you mentioned, they already know who's the candidate.
Unfortunately, your interview shouldn't actually be 3 minutes, because I think 3 minutes is what it takes for one question.
Yeah.
Okay?
Rounding up, just advice for...
So yeah, look, my output has always been the same. I don't care who you put. I don't care who you have in your school, whether the person's black, green, brown, blue, whether the person's any race, whether the person is any religious denomination, doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
All right? Get the best person for the job, because once you leave that school, your decision, and the decision that you made, the appointment that you made, will remain at that school for however long. Okay?
Well, we definitely need to do a show on this again. And I know you have kind of motivated, inspired that person who was thinking, I'm not going to apply. Well, do the right thing.
Absolutely.
Have a conscience. And remember,
Absolutely.
there is heaven and there's hell.
So as I said, the whole idea was to conscientize those people
who's doing
to say, look, do the right thing, because this is what you are.
I'd like to thank you for taking the time to be here and enlighten us. Your number or email address, quick one.
It's the letter V.Gani, G-A-N-I. So it's one word, V-G-A-N-I, at telcomsa.net.
Okay. My email address is sumayakhan.alansar@outlook.com. I'd like to thank my technician, Mondi, for making this show possible. Well, this Friday the 5th is World Teachers Day on a lighter note. Well, School Matters wishes you, my teacher, happy Teachers Day. May you continue to empower the nation, strengthening resilience and building sustainability. May your day be filled with appreciation and love for all the lives you touch. Assalamu alaikum.
والحمد لله لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. You can say it once.